I'm Linda Kay, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Money Talk. I'm the host, Linda Kay of Money Talk, where we don't just talk about money, but money is the top of mind, and how do we accumulate it? And how do we get enough money, not just for today, but for the future? And it's not always about money, is it? Because if you had enough money, but you didn't have a sense of purpose about your life, what would all this money mean to you anyway? You know, some people say money doesn't grow on trees, but that's kind of a scarcity mindset, isn't it? Because you may have enough, but not what about, I don't know, tomorrow, next decade, or even a few 50 years ahead of time. When you think about it, you might not even know how long you might be able to live, but how long you live and how purposeful you live is the most important thing that you can think about. Because isn't it about the purpose in our life? Isn't it about what am I here for? We're going to talk about what that means to you. So I have two things that I want you to do right now. I want you to like and subscribe to what you're hearing, because you should not keep this to yourself. You should be thinking about how else can I help other people have the most productive part of their life coming in. So the second thing is stay tuned, because we'll be right back.
Linda gave me the courage, the confidence to move forward.
And after I was finished with Linda Kay's training, I was at the next level.
It's Linda Kay. But when you trust that piece of you that says, I got something to give, I have something to say, you know you've got something to do.
Get on your feet, shake your hands in the air. Welcome to the stage, Linda Kay.
Okay, we're back. You know, there are people that you live long enough, you will probably outlive a whole lot of things, habits, bad habits, people, and even family, friends, siblings, and maybe even your own children. So what do you think they feel? Retirement doesn't end with being financially prepared. You must also find a purpose. You've got to maintain social connections to have this purposeful, meaningful life. And most importantly, live a fulfilled life. Well, today's guest is a professional and certified coach and the owner of Conflux Retirement Coaching. Now, I know you're going to be thinking, wait a minute, I'm only 23. I'm only 39. I'm only 49. I'm only 62 and a half and haven't started getting Social Security yet. But with over 25 years of experience in corporate sales leadership, she specializes in non-financial retirement life planning. Now, what is that, you might ask? Life planning is all about planning for your life, isn't it? Nobody plans to live to be 150 years old. And none of us have actually made that, except maybe Methuselah and a few biblical characters. But guiding clients through fulfilling transitions focused on well-being and identity are going to help you understand that it isn't just about money, because many people that have the money are not happy with the money that they've got because they don't have a life. So today, I want you to welcome with me my friend, my guest, Wendy Leggett. Hi, Wendy.
Hey there, Linda. How are you?
I'm doing great. I hope I didn't destroy what you have carefully planned out about talking about a purposeful life.
Oh, quite the opposite. I mean, everything that you're saying is very in line with the path that I go down and that I take my clients with me, and that I hope that your listeners will really resonate with as well. And you did mention, if I may real quickly, that no matter if you are that 25 or 39 or 62 and a half, this message really is for any age or life stage. There are probably people in your life that are looking to retire that you can be more supportive of if you're that young. This is a runway to retirement. These are things that in any transition that we go through are going to be beneficial. My particular focus is around retirement.
You know, and I appreciate that so much, because as I approach that retirement age, nobody knows when they are going to retire. There isn't an off ramp that says, if you're a pilot with a commercial airline, it's 65 years old. But people are living longer today, aren't they, Wendy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that traditional retirement age, like you mentioned, 62 or 65. Now studies show us, research shows, facts show that people will have 20, 30 or more years to live. And so the thing is, that's a third of your life after this traditional retirement age. And so,
oh my God, wait a minute, 65 is a third. So that means that we could be like 95 or 100 when we retire.
I mean, that's what they're showing. And you spoke about 150. And I think those that are being born right now, that is the lifespan that they're looking at. But we want them that wealth, not just that wealth span, we want that health span. And health means coming into it with this feeling of purpose and
now you bring up, wait a minute, Wendy, you bring up a really good point. So if I mention that it's 150, at half that age would be 75, and most people are retired when they reach that golden age because they can start, pulling security, a Social Security at 62 and a half or 59 and a half if they've got other issues, or even earlier if they've got a traditional handicap. And so if they couldn't find traditional work, are these people are they any better off because they don't have to worry about the $1,000 or $2,000 that they might get? Don't they have issues no matter what age you retire?
Yeah, and you brought up that word tradition. And the thing is that retirement is a tradition. It's been around for a very long time. It came about, I believe, in the early 30s, at least in the US, when people were working in the factories and the fields and they were tired. And so they got to this point where they needed to step away from that work. And so then there was Social Security to help support them, usually alive for maybe a couple of years or so, and then they expired. But that was then. This is now. And now we're really looking at what is purposeful in our life. Like you mentioned earlier, what is meaningful? What brings me joy? And what gets me up in the morning? And so it really, that word retired needs to be retired, which probably comes funny from a retirement life coach. But I don't advocate for people to retire. What I do advocate is if you're choosing to retire, let's do that with intention. Let's do that with this vision of what we're retiring to and what we're retiring with, so that we retire well. The key in my mind.
Thank you for making that clarification because, it wasn't the idea that people retired because it wasn't ever a notion that we could retire. It was never an option from anywhere, from the beginning of time until in the United States with the New Deal, the big deal, the great deal that was introduced with Social Security. And here in this country, we have this notion, that it wasn't until my mom, who is now 93 years old, that said, there is this thing, but I remember sitting on my dad's shoulders as Roosevelt came through town with the New Deal that said, we're going to have this thing called Social Security. And that would fund you technically into your golden years and into your retired years. But I'll tell you what, $2,000 doesn't cut it in today's economy, does it?
Right. Yeah. And even back then, people just didn't live very much longer, because their feelings of purposefulness, and they were physically tired as well. But we know again that that's not our reality now. And so let's make sure that when we're moving into retirement, that we are doing that with intention, with awareness, that we're motivated then to make the best of this next chapter instead of just basically retiring.
All right, I'm going to ask you a tough question.
Uh-oh.
The idea that people say I'm retired means that they can stop doing the things that they did before and now begin this consistent and conscientious point of their life whether they had a successful life, whether they didn't have a successful life, whether they liked the life that they lived. They're now at this point that says, okay, I don't have to work anymore. And I saved for my retirement and I'm getting some Social Security to supplement that. But I'm not happy. I don't like where I'm at. I don't like what I'm doing because I'm not doing anything. Why is the sense of purpose so important?
Yeah, such an important question and really pivotal to the work that I do. I do want to mention that research tells us that 1 in 3 struggle in retirement. So that really speaks to what you were bringing up, Linda, that there is a percentage of the population who looked forward, maybe anticipated, planned to, okay, leave work, but now what? Because they haven't really thought anything beyond that. They thought that, oh, all the stress will be gone because I'm no longer working. I'm now free to do whatever I want, et cetera, et cetera. But what is that? And so this is where purpose comes in. It's really starting with our why, starting with what feels meaningful to us, what brings us joy. And it doesn't have to be purpose with a capital P. It can be a lowercase p. And it doesn't have to be finding purpose in just one thing. We can feel purposeful. It's a verb. We can feel purposeful in many, many things. But the key is finding what resonates for us, what connects with who we are, what we can bring with us from our career into retirement, and what we need to leave behind. So there are all those piece parts that are pivotally important for us to then be able to embark on this next chapter and feel that sense of meaning and fulfillment.
Well, you bring up a really good point. Now let's talk about purpose. You know, when I was growing up, my purpose in life was get through school, get enough money to survive. And then I reached another point where I had made enough money and I wasn't as insecure as I was. But now I had a different purpose that made me more insecure. And I really want to talk about that balance of insecurity, security, insecurity, security, because I think those are call it your God, my God. I'm thinking that there is a balance of always having this struggle about balancing this issue between have enough, don't have enough. I have a purpose, my purpose changed. Purpose changes over life. My purpose in life, you know, from 1 to 10 was survival, and maybe even 18 with 7 brothers, for God's sakes. But then my purpose changed when I went to college. Let me get through college, and then my purpose changed from that into a career and a first career. But in our lifetime, I want you to talk about how purpose changes over life and how purpose changes for us that makes us constantly grow into this new thing that we become.
Yeah, you bring up an important distinction, which is that goals and purpose, while they can coexist, are not interchangeable. And so we can have goals like you did about graduating from college and getting a job, making more money. Those can be goals. But the purpose behind it is really woven in with what are your values? What's most important to you? Is it a matter of security? Is it a matter of growth? All kinds of things. So that's a pivotally important point that I really delve into with my clients. Are their values? Because we know that when our values are aligned with our actions, then we're more motivated and committed. That moves us more into this idea of feeling purposeful. And so I do want to make that distinction. And so when we start to look at what feels purposeful, that's really digging deep and thinking, like you said, when you were younger, what were the things that really charged you up? If nobody was looking, what would be the things that maybe you would do? What are the things that if you were willing to risk something, that you would step into? And retirement is such a fantastic time to experiment. It doesn't mean you have to go in with both feet into the deep water. You can put a toe in. But what an incredible opportunity to test out some of these things. And yet so many people, when they go into retirement, Linda, they do jump in with the both feet. They make these big commitments. They get into volunteer work, wholeheartedly, which I'm no judgment there if that, but oftentimes that can be done without that real intention and awareness. Or they might say, yes, I'll take care of my grandkids all the time. And yet maybe there would have been a better balance if they were more planful and aware. So I'm kind of layering a lot on there, but I want to just share that, again, purpose doesn't have to be one thing, and it doesn't have to have the tangibles around it that our goals did, that our achievements did. It's just that inner achievement as opposed to some of those external barometers that we use. Does that kind of speak to what you were asking?
It does. And I want you to wrap that into the values, because I don't think our values really change in our life. They might morph a little bit, but when I think about the values that you were just talking about that I was raised with the values of leadership and responsibility. But as we get older, we kind of look to others to take that baton for leadership, and we don't let our responsibility go. But sometimes, in retirement, especially when you have health issues or you have other issues, you do. Tell me how you got into this life coaching about retirement. What was your journey into this?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, my background is in sales leadership. So I worked for 25 years for a variety of different organizations and companies, from Fortune 50 to fashion to franchises, and loved that. Mostly the things that I loved the most were elevating my team members' capabilities, connecting with clients, and meeting and exceeding sales and service numbers. So it was kind of the full package for me. The reason that I moved into coaching was that the last position that I was in, which I loved, I was a director of a number of franchises. I loved the owners that I was working for, and we were doing phenomenal things. We really were, exceeding any of their expectations around sales. We were really connecting with our customers. The people that I had on my team were very motivated. It was fantastic. I mean, it was probably too good to be true. And it was, because we did so well that it really positioned the companies in a great position to be sold. And so that's what the owners did. And the new owner that came in had a very different philosophy. And when we talk about values, he had a very different path that he was going down. And we know that when we're representing a company like I was in front of the customers and in front of the people working for me, it's very difficult to have to carry a message that doesn't deep down feel good. And that's what was happening for me. And so I really tried every which way, because we're problem solvers, right?
Right.
I tried every which way to make it work. And at some point I came to the realization that this is his company. He's going to walk down the path he does. And if I keep going down that path, it's just going to keep chipping away. So sometimes these sorts of crossroads are there for us, for a purpose. And I feel very fortunate that I had the opportunity then to dig deep and start exploring things. And I came upon the world of coaching, which was totally new to me. But I thought, wow, this is an opportunity for me to bring myself forward in all the ways that I think I have these strengths around, and represent my best self at the same time. So I went back to school. I got, as you had shared, my professional certified coaching credential. It was really amazing to go back to school. That was really different for me, having not been in school for a long time. And then from there, I started as a business coach, because they said, do what you know best. But I found that it was very strategic and tactically oriented, and not getting to that deeper level, that transformational level that I had been opened up to through my coaching schooling. So I looked around, especially because a number of the people in my circles were of retirement age, and a number of my clients were, and I saw that struggle. I saw that a lot of them worked so hard to retire and then kind of fell out, like they were being left behind. I had, some friends say that they started feeling invisible. And I thought, wow, this is an area that I think that I can really help. And so I discovered then the retirement life coaching opportunity. I went back and got several credentials for that as well, and something called positive intelligence, where really shifting our mindset. And so that's the long story of my story. But that's what brought me here. And about a little over 5 years ago, I started my business, Conflicts Retirement Coaching, and I work with individuals, couples around this.
Well, you didn't just live through that, Wendy. I think you wrote a book about it. The Retirement Collective, right?
Yes, I'm a co-author of the Retirement Collective. It just came out. I am a member of the Retirement Coaches Association, and so a number of us coaches brought forward some of the areas that we feel most strongly about. And my chapter that I contributed was about mindset, was about those hidden thoughts and feelings that so many people, as they're moving into retirement, have, but they maybe haven't used that muscle around the emotions. You know, the demographic that's at the retirement age, baby boomers, tend to be ones that are hard charging, no pain, no gain, and really either suppress or push aside emotions. So it's not a muscle that many of us have used. And yet this is how we get at purpose. This is how we get at really what at the core is most important to us. And this
What
can
are
be
some
the
of those
springboard.
issues, Wendy? I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what are some of the issues that we baby boomers are facing about our own mortality and about our legacy and about, you know, wanting to stay in place, age in place, be in place, and be purposeful? What are some
Yeah,
of
I
those?
mean, well, you just named a number of them. I mean, there is that sense of identity that if you are what you do, who are you when you don't? And so when we leave work, we can leave pieces of ourselves behind if our identity is so in the world.
OMG. Okay, stop it, because, you know, you're speaking more to a specific gender, because women don't really think about, oh, my identity is being this. Men do. And when they stop being that, whether they lose it, you know, because they're in a transition to go to another job or they're transitioning into another part of their life, the fact that you just said that is so important. But it isn't just always one gender or the other. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is, again, that piece of the value that you just brought about, the topic of having a purpose and thinking about not just our goals, about what do we want to leave as our legacy. Talk about talk about this for a moment to me, about why is it important to have a legacy?
Yeah, well, we want not only to leave financial legacy behind, but we want that wisdom of legacy, and really that, again, that we've made them, that we've mattered, that we've made an imprint on those that we love, that those are close to us or even in our community or in the world. Really feeling again as though we mattered, because as humans, we are so connected. We're social creatures. We want to feel as though we are making a contribution, that us being on this earth matters. And so legacy then isn't even just what we're leaving behind, but what we're giving of ourselves while we're here. And so I've had clients who say, oh, I'll work on this for, you know, what I'm going to be leaving behind. But we really shift that script a little bit and say, but can't you live it out now? You know, what are the building blocks to that legacy now? So that, yes, when you do leave, you've left these things behind, but you're giving while you're still here. And so I think that that's an important distinction.
You know, it's important for me to tell you that a few years ago, I realized that Mom had a big shift and a change. And I think this is important to tell the viewers, that when you're thinking about retirement, don't even think about just yours or your spouse's, but think about the parents and think about your siblings. Think about the people that are affected by this living. Because when my mom was 87, she had gone blind. She had been very, very purposeful about her life. And in fact, it wasn't until she was 85 that she actually retired, because she had so many things that she wanted to do. But as she had one thing after another taken away from her, she began to say, you know, God, just take me now, because my purpose in life is done. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not how God works. I'm pretty sure when our warranty is up, we expire. And it's not up to us. Some people make that choice and accelerate that path in their life. And then there are others that don't. And for her, I just said, Mom, what do you want your legacy to be about? And she was like, legacy? I had these quilts that I made and I've got all these paintings. No, I'm talking about the next 2 and 3 and 4 generations. Have you ever thought about writing a book? And she was like, have you noticed I'm blind? And I think that's important for you to understand, and to our viewers, that it isn't about what you are at this moment. It's about what you can become to help others get through that point in their lives. And I said to her, Mom, you may be blind, but you haven't lost your vision. And for her, she said, well, I don't know how I'm going to write a book. And I'm like, I got eyes, I got a mouth. God only knows I got a mouth. And let's go write a book. And I began this process of beginning to understand who my mom was, who she was, being in love with my dad, having 9 kids. How did that happen? Well, we know how things happen. But when you explain things about what was in life and what you were going through at that point in your life, you leave breadcrumbs for other people. You leave a legacy for other people to get where you got to, and for them to get beyond where you got to, because isn't that what legacy is about?
Yeah. And the word living legacy kind of comes to my mind, because it feels like that gave your mom life as well. And so,
oh my gosh,
really,
thank you, Wendy, because it absolutely did. We became international best-selling authors, not because I was such a brilliant writer, but because of the circumstance that was created. She wrote about coming over to America as an immigrant. And we think, oh, well, what could I possibly do? What could I possibly teach other people about my life? Give them inspiration. But guess what? When the Ukrainian war broke out and they started thinking, everybody was like looking for a story about immigration and about coming to America. And that's what this book's about. All of a sudden, we became international sensations, talking to over 1 million people in a few months because of who she was and where she came from. Never underestimate the value of who you are and what you have to give. Give it up. Tell people where you were and what you did, because you never know, Wendy, if it's going to be an inspiration or a perspiration to other people to hear your story, right?
Yeah. And whether it resonated internationally, which fantastic. I mean, that's so inspiring. Or if it just brought her life, and it brought you to connection, and it gave her a purpose. And it allowed her to continue to see that, no, it's not just about loss. There's still this abundance. And that is that important mindset that we want to really foster, is looking at the abundance rather than the scarcity, because we know as we age that we are going to start to feel this loss, experience this loss. It's a reality, but there's so much more that's out there for us as well. If we can just need to have the vision for it.
It's so true, because, after we launched the book, she says, Linda, when are we going to write the next book? And I'm like, oh my God, Mom, you've exhausted me. I'm so tired, right?
What did you start?
Right. But she was 87 today. She's 93. And I will tell you what, she was ready to expire at 87. So this did give her a sense of purpose. This did give her a sense of drive. And I had my oldest client was 106 years old, Wendy. And when he left this world, it wasn't because he wanted to, because he was fighting for his life every day. But the fact that he gave so many people joy, it isn't about, when did you stop? It's what do you have left? Yes.
Yeah. So true. And I think that, out in the media, it's kind of like on one end of the spectrum or the other, that either it's endless weekends, leisure travel, or when we retire, it's one foot into the grave and it's about loss. And I really want people to come to the middle and look at this realistic optimism about what is important to me, what matters to me, and start with that, answering that why. Why am I here? What is it that I can offer to myself, to those I love, to my community, to the world? And start with that, answering that question of why. before we start to get into the how and before we start to get into the what. You know, there's this epidemic of busyness, and oftentimes a lot of retirees step right into it, feeling as though they need to justify their time by filling up their dance card. And yet that's not fulfilling time. That's just filling time. And that
No, it's
becomes that
exhausting
hamster wheel.
time. For goodness sakes, they've got other
Yeah.
things to do. But I think that, to your point, Wendy, if we don't fill the dance card, we fill it with doctor's appointments and ailments. And now you get time to think about all the things that hurt. And I'm not suggesting for a minute that we shouldn't be paying attention to our health, but shouldn't we be paying attention to our health throughout our life, so that the end of our life is far more productive and has less pain and less structure, but less things to complain about?
Yes. Yeah. And so when I work with clients, we do look at all those essentials. So health is certainly one of them. And I think both you and I have probably heard people say, oh, when I retire, I'll get healthy. I'll go to the gym, or I'll start these things. And my belief is, for any of your listeners, age, life stage, get that runway to retirement going now. Get those good habits and practices in place now. And really let go of those patterns that don't serve you, so that you can continue through your life at whatever age, being your very best self. And I know that sounds kind of woo, but one little step at a time, we can continuously make these incremental changes that bring us then to that vision, that bring us to our best selves. But if we don't start now, then when? And if we continue to have practices that work against us, and that we carry over with us from career, those patterns and habits can work against us. I do speak to the idea of being the CEO of you, that when you step into retirement, you're the leader of yourself. You're at choice. And I think so often people abdicate those choices. They let society, they let others make decisions for them. And yet, by allowing others to make a decision, you're making a decision, and that is to kind of give up on some of the hopes and dreams that you might have. So I really, really stress that we need to take up for those decisions. And it starts with being planful, being aware, being intentional, and getting into action.
Oh my gosh, such great stuff. All right, Wendy, before we wrap up, give me 3 tips to aging gracefully, beautifully, and purposefully.
I would say the first tip is to really look at yourself. What's important to you? Because we know that when we act authentically and bring our best self into the world, then there's a shine about us, you know. And so no matter what age we're at, we're going to be showing that graceful living. So I would say really dig into what's important to you. I would say too that really cut out the noise of what you're hearing out there. And I guess this gets back also to just that authenticity, but determine what is your path. You don't need to follow the path of family or friends or society. Determine your path, because when we have that level of clarity and commitment, then we're able to move forward confidently. And confidently, again, is going to underscore that we come from this place that there's a light there and that we're connected. And then I would say too that mindset, that going in with this idea that yes, as we get older, that we can look at it from a sense of loss, or we can look at it from a sense of abundance. We can think that there's scarcity, or we can think that there's opportunity. And so always looking at the possibility would be the third thing that I would share.
So beautiful and so genuine. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much for giving us these pearls of wisdom and the joy of really expressing who we are. You know, sometimes as we get older, we don't care that we might pass a little bit of gas, or we burp, or we do, because we've earned the right to do this, right? But when you tell it in such an elegant way that we can have such a purposeful and rest of our beautiful life, I just want everybody to understand how they can reach you. We'll put it up on the screen one more time before I let you go. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate who you are. And thank you for sharing these pearls of wisdom and the joy of moving on into the rest of our life and leaving a legacy. Thank you, Wendy.
Oh, I so appreciate the opportunity. It's really been a fantastic connection, and kudos to you and your mom for really living it out for all of us and sharing that story as well.
We're still rocking it, and she's exhausting the hell out of me.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us again on this wonderful journey about life and about money talk, because it isn't just about money, it is about life. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. Join us again on Money Talk. I'm Linda Kay.
Do you like to talk about money? If you do and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindak360.com.